Let me ask you a question. You're out on the water in the middle of January. It's cold, the sky is clear, and you haven't had a bite in 3 hours. What's the first thing you blame? The weather, right? The cold front, the high pressure. We've all done it. But what if I told you the weather is just an excuse? That the real reason your rod isn't bending has almost nothing to do with the sky and everything to do with what you're doing with your hands. Today, we're not talking about fancy new lures or secret spots. We're talking about the uncomfortable truth. We're going to expose why your own habits are likely the number one reason you fail in the winter. And by the end of this, you'll see that a tough day is often just a series of small, fixable mistakes. So I have to ask, are you truly convinced the fish aren't biting, or are you just not giving them a reason to?
For generations, we've passed down this idea that winter fishing is a game of luck, dictated entirely by Mother Nature. An old-timer at the boat ramp says, "Pressure's too high, son. Might as well go home." And we believe him because it's easy. It's easy to blame something we can't control. This belief is so ingrained that it shapes our entire day before we even make a cast. We head out with lower expectations, we get frustrated faster, and we quit sooner. We fish our favorite summer spots out of habit, use the same fast retrieves that worked in June, and then wonder why the lake feels dead. The truth is, the lake isn't dead, it's just playing by a different set of rules. The problem isn't the deads of winter folklore, it's that most of us are trying to play a summer game in a winter world, and the fish simply aren't participating. Let's start with the most common excuse, the dreaded cold front. The story goes that when the pressure spikes and the temperature drops, fish get lockjaw. They just sit on the bottom and refuse to eat. Imagine seeing a guy pull up to the ramp on a day like this, boat covered in frost, and he's got a smile on his face. You ask him how he did, and he says it was a great day. He's not lying, and he's not a magician. He just understands that fish don't stop eating for days on end. They are cold-blooded survivors. They simply reposition and change their feeding habits. The front doesn't give them lockjaw, it just makes them less willing to chase. They won't move 10 feet for a meal, but they might move 6 inches. The question isn't if they're eating, but how you can put a lure right in their face so they don't have a choice. So if the fish are still willing to eat, what's the first mistake we're making? It's speed. Your hands are moving too fast. Think about how you fish a plastic worm in May. You cast it out, let it sink, then pop, pop, drag, and reel. You're covering water, trying to trigger a reaction. In January, that's the absolute wrong approach. A bait's metabolism has slowed to a crawl. It's not aggressive, it's conserving energy. When your lure flies by its face, it's not a meal opportunity, it's just a blur. You have to force yourself to slow down to a level that feels painfully boring. Imagine yourself on the deck, it's dead quiet, and you're just staring at your line. So that's the pace. The difference between a bite and nothing is often just a few seconds of extra pause. Let's take that idea of slowing down to its logical extreme. It's a technique called dead sticking, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You do nothing. You cast a lure out, maybe a stick bait or a lightweight jig, and you let it sit on the bottom for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, sometimes a full minute. Your brain will be screaming at you to move it, to do something, but you have to fight that urge. Picture this from the fish's perspective. It sees this small, easy meal just lying there. It's not fleeing, it's not a threat. The fish can slowly drift over, look at it, and then just inhale it. The bite won't be a classic thump. It will feel like your line just got heavy, or maybe you'll see your line start to slowly swim away. This is patience winning over impulse. Now let's talk about what's connecting your hands to that lure, your fishing line. In the summer, you can get away with using heavy braided line that looks like a rope underwater. The water is warmer, often has more color, and the fish are aggressive. In the cold, clear water of January, that thick line is a dead giveaway. It's like a neon sign pointing right to your lure. This is where finesse comes in. You need to downsize drastically. We're talking about a 6 or 8 pound fluorocarbon leader. It's nearly invisible underwater and gives your lure a much more natural action. Imagine two fishermen side by side. One is using 20-pound braid tied directly to his jig. The other has an 8-pound leader. Who do you think is going to get bit? It's a small change that makes a world of difference. The same less is more principle applies to your lure itself. That giant, flashy swim bait or that noisy crankbait that crushed them in October. Put it away. Winter is the time for subtlety. Think smaller profiles, a 3-inch swim bait instead of a 6-inch one, a small Ned rig instead of a giant Texas-rigged creature bait. The colours should be natural too. Greens, browns, smoke. You're not trying to shock and awe the fish into biting. You're trying to imitate the slow, dying bait fish that are their primary food source this time of year. A lethargic base isn't looking for a 5-course meal. It's looking for an easy, non-threatening snack. Your lure choice should reflect that. It should whisper, not shout. Here's a hard truth. You are probably missing half of your winter bites and you don't even know it. We're all conditioned to feel that telltale thump or tick on the line when a fish bites. In winter, that rarely happens. A cold water base often just sucks the lure in very gently and sits there. The bite feels mushy. It feels like you've snagged a dead leaf or a small clump of grass. The natural reaction is to pull back slowly to see if you're snagged. By the time you realize it was a fish, it has already spit the hook. This is why you must become a line watcher. Any subtle jump, any slight sideways movement, any feeling of sponginess is a bite. You must treat everything as a fish and set the hook. You might set on a few logs, but you'll also land fish you would have otherwise missed. Let's talk about another sense, smell. In warm water, fish are primarily sight feeders. They see something move and they attack it. In cold, slow-moving water, their other senses become much more important. A fish might be sitting motionless, unwilling to move, but if the scent of a crawfish or a shad drifts past its nose, it can be the one thing that triggers it to investigate. This is why adding scent to your lures in winter is not a gimmick, it's a critical tool. A little bit of scent gel on your soft plastic can make a fish hold on for that extra second or two. You need to detect the bite and set the hook. Imagine your lure sitting dead still on the bottom. The only thing it has going for it is the trail of scent it's leaving in the water. It's a silent invitation. So you've slowed down and finessed your presentation, but where are you casting? The biggest mistake anglers make is fishing their memories. They go to the same main lake point or the same weed bed where they caught fish all summer. In January, those spots are often barren wastelands. The bait fish have moved and the bays have followed them. Your job is to forget about summer patterns and think about winter survival. Where would a fish go to find stable water temperatures and an easy meal? Think deep. Think vertical. The fish that were scattered across a 5-acre flat in July are now probably clumped together on one single steep rock pile. The word vertical is key to winter fishing. Look for anything that provides a quick path from deep water to shallow water. Steep bluff walls, the pilings of a bridge, or a deep, vertical boat dock. Why? Because fish can change their depth by moving only a few feet horizontally instead of hundreds of feet. On a sunny day, they might move up the bluff wall 10 feet to warm themselves in the sun. When a cloud comes over, they can sink right back down to the safety of 30 feet of water without expending much energy. Imagine you're fishing a flat, sloping bank. A fish would have to swim 50 yards to change its depth by 10 feet. On a vertical wall, it just has to move its tail once. Fish are lazy in the winter, fish where they can be the laziest. One of the most overlooked factors is the search for warmth, even a tiny amount of it. In a lake where the main body of water is 42 degrees, a spot that is 44 degrees is a fish magnet. So where do you find this warmer water? Look for rocks. A sun-drenched rock wall or a rip-rap bank on the northern side of the lake soaks up solar energy all day and radiates that heat into the surrounding water. Concrete boat ramps and retaining walls do the same thing. On a calm, sunny afternoon, these spots can be several degrees warmer, and that will draw in both bait fish and the bass that feed on them. You could fish 100 yards of muddy bank with no success, then make one cast to a sun-baked concrete wall and catch your biggest fish of the day. Now this might sound contradictory, but don't completely ignore shallow water. While most fish will be deep, a warming trend, even just a few hours of sunshine in the afternoon, can trigger a surprising shallow bite. Big, lethargic bass will sometimes pull up into just a few feet of water to sunbathe like a turtle on a log. But they are extremely spooky. You can't come roaring in with your big motor and start banging around the boat. This requires stealth. Use your trolling motor on low, make long casts and keep a low profile. The lure choice here is also critical. A slow sinking, silent lure is often best. You're not trying to call them in, you're trying to drop a silent offering in front of a fish that is already there. In this modern age, winter is not the time to be old school and just fish by feel. Your electronics are your single most important tool. It's the difference between fishing and just going for a boat ride. You should spend more time looking at your graph than you do casting. Don't fish empty water. Use your sonar to scan those steep banks and deep points until you mark bait fish, or what you believe are bass. In winter, fish are often grouped up tightly. You might scan 100 yards of a bank and see nothing, and then suddenly your screen lights up. That's your spot. That's where you need to stop and patiently pick apart the area for the next hour. Without electronics, you would have driven right past the mother lode. Let's shift from technique to the most important tool you have, your mindset. In the winter, you must adopt what I call the one-bite mentality. Your goal for the day is not to fill the boat. It's not to catch 20 fish. Your goal is to get one single bite. That's it. This changes everything. When your goal is just one bite, you're not in a hurry. You're willing to spend 30 minutes soaking a lure in one spot. You're not discouraged after the first hour of no action. You're focused, you're patient, and you're paying attention to every subtle detail. And ironically, when you fish with this intense focus for just one bite, you often end up getting 5 or 6. This one-bite mentality means you have to abandon the run-and-gun approach. We all love to do it. Hit a spot, make 5 casts, nothing happens, so we fire up the big motor and race to the next spot. This is a great way to cover water and find active fish in the summer. In the winter, it's a recipe for failure. The fish are not active, they are not chasing. You could run past a school of 50 bass and they wouldn't even look at your lure. The better approach is to use your electronics to find a high percentage area, a steep channel swing bank with some wood on it, for example, and then park yourself there. Pick it apart with different angles and different lures. You have to wait them out, not run them down. We've all seen it. You're out in your $200,000 bass boat with a dozen rods on the deck, and you haven't had a bite all day. Then you look over at the bank and see an old-timer sitting on a bucket. He's got one simple spinning rod, and he just landed a 5-pounder. You watch him for a while, and 20 minutes later, he catches another one. What's his secret? It's not some magic lure. His secret is simplicity and patience. He's not overthinking it. He has confidence in his one spot, and his one lure, and he is willing to sit there and let it work. He has disconnected from the urge to always be doing something and has embraced the power of waiting. We can all learn a lesson from that guy on the bucket. Think of it this way. Summer fishing is like playing checkers. The moves are fast, aggressive, and direct. You jump your opponent's pieces and try to overwhelm them. Winter fishing is a game of chess. It's slow, deliberate, and strategic. You have to think several moves ahead. You're not trying to force the fish to react. You are trying to anticipate its most likely, most energy-efficient move and place your lure there as an unavoidable opportunity. It's a mental game. You have to outthink a creature that is programmed to do as little as possible. This requires a fundamental shift in how you approach the water. It's a quiet, intellectual pursuit, not a brute force sport. So let's tie it all together. The weather isn't the verdict, it's just the condition. It's a piece of information. A cloudy, windy day tells you one thing. A calm, sunny day tells you another. It doesn't tell you go home. It tells you slow down, go deeper, look for vertical structure, or try that sun-baked bank. The disconnect happens when we let the weather dictate our attitude instead of our strategy. We see a bad forecast and we're defeated before we launch the boat. The successful winter angler sees that same forecast and uses it to build a winning game plan. The sky isn't the problem. The problem is the failure to adapt to what the sky is telling you. The next time you're on the water and it's tough, I challenge you to perform an honest audit of your own actions. Are you fishing too fast? Is your line too heavy? Are you in a summer spot? Are you fishing with confidence? Or are you just going through the motions, waiting to go home? Be brutally honest with yourself. Film your hands with your phone for 5 minutes. When you watch it back, you might be shocked at how much you're moving the lure without even realizing it. The fish aren't ignoring your lure because of the barometric pressure. They are likely ignoring it because its size, speed, or location is wrong for the conditions. That's a you problem, not a weather problem. And the good news is you can fix that. This isn't about blaming you or making you feel bad. It's about empowering you. Blaming the weather is giving up control. It's saying the outcome is out of your hands. But taking responsibility for your technique, your location, and your mindset, that puts the control right back where it belongs, in your hands. Every single cast is a new opportunity to fix a mistake. Every retrieve is a chance to slow down just a little bit more. The ability to catch fish in the toughest conditions isn't some magical gift. It is a skill, and like any skill, it is built through conscious practice, self-correction, and a refusal to make excuses. You have the power to change your results. So, the final thought is this. The problem isn't the cold, the problem isn't the sun, the problem isn't the wind. Those are just the parameters of the puzzle for that day. The real challenge is solving that puzzle. It's about connecting the dots between the conditions and the fish's behavior. When you stop seeing the weather as an enemy and start seeing it as a roadmap, your entire perspective on winter fishing will change. You'll start looking forward to those tough, nasty days because you'll know that while everyone else is at home making excuses, you have the knowledge to go out there and succeed. You just have to be willing to admit that maybe, just maybe, it was never the weather's fault to begin with. So there you have it. For years, we've let ourselves off the hook by blaming the weather. It's the perfect scapegoat. But the real game changer, the aha moment, is realizing that the fish are almost always catchable. The deciding factor isn't the pressure system. It's the pressure we put on ourselves to slow down, to be more delicate, to think instead of just react. The most important takeaway is this. Winter fishing is a direct reflection of an angler's patience and attention to detail. It's not about what the fish are doing, but about how precisely you can adapt to what they need. This shift in thinking from being a victim of the weather to a student of the conditions will fundamentally change your results and turn the most challenging season into the most rewarding one. Thank you so much for watching. If this video made you rethink your winter strategy, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more content that cuts through the noise. And now I want to hear from you. What's the #1 excuse you hear from other anglers, or even yourself, on a tough day of fishing? Drop it in the comments below. Let's have an honest conversation.